Hello guys and welcome to another video. Today I'm here to do my Booktube-A-Thon Wrap Up. I've tried to film this video once and it was awful actually, so I'm hoping that this one is gonna turn out much better actually, because I filmed it on a Monday and now it's Wednesday, so I know I'm late, but that happened. So what I want to show you is the books I've read and the reading challenges I achieved with the books I've read during the Booktube-A-Thon. As you know, I didn't do any video challenges and I actually only tried one Instagram challenge because most of them I couldn't achieve with where I was and with what I had with me, because I was in vacations, I was not at home, I didn't have all my books, I only had the books I was gonna read. So yeah, that being said, let's move on to the books I have read during this Booktube-A-Thon. And I want to tell you right now, I managed to read 7 books. I read 7 books, like actual proper sized books, not just these little tiny books like Magic Beasts and where to find them. So yeah, I want to talk to you about the reading challenges that I achieved, which were all of them, and with which book did I do that. Let's move on to that. I'm gonna present the books to you in the order I read them, and then I'm gonna tell you which reading challenges I achieved with that. So for the first book I finished reading during the Booktube-A-Thon was The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan, and this is the first installment in the Heroes of Olympus series. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The only reason why I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars it's because all the mystery and all the surprising elements, like who is the one who sent Jason, who is the one who's doing this, who is the big bad guy in this series, I could tell from like the first 3 chapters. I really like Leo as a narrator. He's really funny. It reminds me of like Groover and Percy, mixed together. Really enjoyed Jason. I really got to enjoy Jason. And it's funny how they think differently, so you can tell when you're in which chapter. And Piper, at the beginning, I was not really sure if I was loving her perspectives, but then I actually really enjoyed her character. I think it's a character that grows a lot during this book. And I'm definitely gonna keep reading this series. Actually, I'm already planning on buying the 2nd and the 3rd. When I reach Mark of Athena, just be on Twitter, because I will probably cry there apparently. People have warned me. For the reading challenges, this book made me achieve the first reading challenge, which is read a book with yellow on the cover. And as you can see, there is yellow here, and it's really hard for me to find a book with yellow on the cover, so I'm gonna count this, and I hope you do too. Thank you. The next book I read was Paper Towns by John Green. I know, finally. I got this book like 3 years ago. I finally read it. I finally got to it. And I have to say, this is a solid 4 stars for me. This is translated. I've read Looking for Alaska in English and I really enjoyed the way it was written. And I've read this and Fault in Our Stars in translated to Brazilian Portuguese. But it's really, I think the prose it's there. It's really beautiful to read. The words can be at the same time very beautiful and then very normal and very current and common. I really like the story. The fact that it has an adventure in the beginning and then a road trip in the end and a mystery in the middle. So it reads like 3 different genres throughout. The characters is the part which I didn't love. I hate Margot. I think she's very entitled. Quentin is really weird because he's a little obsessed with Margot. And yeah, Ben is weird. Ben is just very weird. So I read this book and I watched the movie adaptation. So this counts for challenge number 6. Read a book and watch its movie adaptation. I really enjoyed the movie. They did change stuff, but what I really was like looking at is the casting, because Ben and Radar for me looks way too young, way younger than I imagined him. Radar and Ben look so much younger than Quentin when they're supposed to look the same, even though Quentin is supposed to be taller, which I never imagined him to be in the book, which is funny. But he looks, slightly younger, but at the same age as Margot, who looks very older than, high school kids. That being said, Quentin's mother is also really young. Little Margot, you know, Margot when she was young, so similar. With that being said, let's move on to the next book. So the next book I read was Mouse by Art Spiegelman. And this is a graphic novel in 2 volumes about the story of Art Spiegelman's dad, a Jew during the Second World War, and he was in Auschwitz, and he suffered a great deal, but you know, he survived. So he's telling his story, and it's a really moving story. It's a very touching story. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was a bit slower to read because the story is so sad, you know. And I read this because I already owned it for a long time, and people were saying it was good. Graphic novels are always good for readathons, so yeah, I picked this one up. It doesn't complete any challenge, but I really enjoyed it. Next book is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and this book is YA contemporary, but it's so different than all the other YA contemporaries. It's really different. I can't spoil you that, so I'm just saying, if you really like reading YA contemporary but you're a bit sick of always reading the same love story, you know, because usually contemporary YA is always about a couple that gets together in the end. So if you're a bit sick of that, maybe you should try We Were Liars if you haven't already, which I know a lot of people on YouTube already have read this and loved it, and I'm really late. This was a very surprising read. It's like it has layers over layers, so the more you get into the story, the darker it gets and the more complex, and it gets deeper. This is a story about 4 kids. One of them is Candace, the narrator, and who are, you know, cousins, and one of them isn't, but you know, cousins in a very rich family who go always to this island that they own during the summer. So yeah, and the group is called Liars. Really enjoyed it. Really surprising ending, and I gave it 4.75 out of 5 stars, I think. I don't want to check right now, but you can check my Goodreads link down below, and you can see what I thought about all the books I'm gonna talk about in this video. So yeah, and this book completed a challenge number 3, read a book you discovered through Booktube, because I obviously heard about this on Booktube. The next book is Fotos Segunda Frente by Alice Vieira, and this was the book I only read after sunset, and this is by an author, a Portuguese author, very well known for writing children fiction and middle grade fiction. And this is the sequel to Rosa Minha Irmã Rosa, which if you're Portuguese you know. It's a very popular book, and this was a solid read. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Was not that fast to read because I kept falling asleep. The thing about Alice Vieira is that her writing is beautiful. This book also counted as the book that is older than you challenge, which was challenge number 5. So yeah, this book was written in 1980, so yeah, it's older than me. It's much older than me. The next one was a novel read, so you know, you can always have time for a novel read during a Booktube-A-Thon. And that was Chasing Harry Winston by Lauren Weisberger. This was just bad. You can read all my thoughts on Goodreads, the link is down below, because I don't want to talk to you about that, except it really goes to commonplaces. I really enjoyed the ending, that's why I didn't give it like 1 star, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. But it could be so much more, and it felt really weird for me. First, the characters were inconsistent, so also it really got into the cliche of thinking, you know, Brazilian women are very, you know, sexually liberated, and went along with that. And at the same time, a woman who didn't sleep around very much, a woman who has only slept with 2 guys, was a prude and needed to sleep with more guys in order to really find herself, which is just stupid and ridiculous. This also didn't complete any challenge, I just had it, and it was a fast read, which is the only plus it had, even though it has 300 pages. So I'm just, no, this was bad. Don't read it. And the last book I read was Finding Audrey by Sophie Kinsella. And I really enjoyed this book. I've already read a lot of books by Sophie Kinsella, and I really love her writing style because she writes chick lit, but really well. Her characters are always so funny, but at the same time so moving and touching. So I really enjoyed. I really enjoy reading a book by Sophie Kinsella. So when I heard she was gonna write a YA book, I was really interested in checking it out. And it's also a much more moving story than she usually writes. Because our main character, Audrey, suffers from sexual anxiety. Very serious and intense form of social anxiety and anxiety in general, and also I think depression. Yeah, so what you get in this book, I think, is a chapter in her life. The chapter where she gets better, and also the chapter where she finds a boy that likes her, and a guy that always looked at her and always wondered about her, and now has the opportunity to talk to her. And that's because she was already on her way, up to recovery. That being said, you are given the minimum information about the past. But I think that's important because you've already heard so many stories about bullying, about girls bullying other girls. I feel like it's the entire story, because that would be really... No, there was a part in her life where she was even more depressed than she's in throughout this book. So this is like a chapter in which she's going up with a little, bumps in the way, which is kind of one of the messages in the book. I really enjoyed it. I think it felt very true and very moving and very real, and at the time it was really funny, because that's just Sophie Kinsella's style of writing, and I didn't think it was disrespectful for the diseases at all. I think, she balanced the funny and the moving really well. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was beautiful. I loved reading this book. I thought I was getting information as well. So yeah, it was really good. That being said, that book completed challenge number 4. Read a book by one of your favorite authors, and Sophie Kinsella definitely is one. With that being said, this shows I completed all 7 challenges, and I read 7 books this week, which is challenge number 7. That was my reading during the Booktube-A-Thon. I hope you had a great Booktube-A-Thon as well. Tell me what you've read and if you enjoy them or not in the comments down below. All my media links are in the description box. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up or subscribe, and I'll see you soon in another video. Goodbye! I just noticed that I did like the light balance on the camera, and I still look orange, so sorry about that. I'm still trying to figure it out, okay? Thank you, sorry.